Yeah, so let's clarify that first. Stephanie, what do we mean and why is it important to talk about the twin transformation?
Yes, of course. So I think we've all been busy talking about digitalization and how we can integrate digitalization in our companies, organizations, wherever you guys are working. And I think the second step is to use it also to implement sustainability. So actually it's a combination of course, driving digitalization, but also sustainability. And I think they kind of go together. So of course, lots of the sustainability is driven by digitalization, but it gives digitalization a good purpose of why to do it. So I think it's you can't do one without the other.
Yes, everybody agrees that digitalization is a transformation. It's obviously just the basics of sustainability, like there's no reporting unless you know the exact data in your supply chain. And let's be frank, most of those is still printed somewhere on a bill from the Stadtwerke instead of being digitalized. So it's obvious why you need to do that. And then, of course, once you have the data, you can really leverage effectiveness, efficiencies, and you can really use that data to create an additional effect. And what most people underestimate is that sustainability is not just, oh, we do this or that. It is also a transformation. Hence, running both together, that's really the task. Valerie, AXA and Climate School, how does that come together?
So I guess in Germany and also many other countries, AXA is known as an insurance company. However, the insurance world has also a big interest in climate, since a 3-degree warmer world is not insurable. So AXA decided to have their own entity, which is AXA Climate. However, we're very independent from AXA. And what we do, we provide services and products that pertain to sustainability and climate. And we actually help companies in the transformation processes. And one of our business units is training. And this is where we offer our e-learning solutions, as Sarkis said earlier.
Now, let's assume the companies you work with, they, to some extent, already have their digital transformation running. And let's assume they really are at the level where they understand sustainability is, maybe let's question that first. The people who actually use the AXA Climate Score, do they already have a buy-in to sustainability being a change process versus having 3 people who do some numbers?
So I guess education is a great tool for companies to actually accelerate the sustainable transformation. But what is actually a lot more important is that leaders acknowledge that sustainability is a cultural transformation. And if you don't have that, it's very difficult to engage all employees. And the AXA Climate School is more like a tool than to actually help engage the employees. But however, the framework needs to be set, and the sustainability needs to be in the DNA of companies. And with our clients, we see that the AXA Climate School is very successful in companies where this framework is given, compared to others where they're still struggling.
I would question that there are a lot of companies out there who already are at that level.
I don't know. I think that many leaders, they actually know that change needs to happen. I think the one variable is more that the pace at which they actually want change, and also the extent to which they want change to happen. And this, of course, is very much still in process. But I think we always have to remind ourselves that there will be change. And as also Maya Göppel said earlier, there will be change, but we can decide now if we want the change by design and by disaster. And I think we need to change the narrative around that and really show leaders, and also leaders show in the companies, that we are at this very exciting time where we can actually transform companies.
Yeah, maybe if I add one point, I think there is a possibility to start with a kind of grassroots transformation. So I think, like you're saying, in many corporates, of course, there are a couple of people, they usually know exactly what has to be done, and they can, of course, help affect. So I think it's both ways. You need to have the commitment of management, the board, whatever, because they, of course, need to fund exactly what you guys are providing, which is really awesome. But I think there's a possibility to have a big grassroots movement to get people involved with small things and to really start to nourish the topic. And of course, at the end, it will be like a project which will have to be set. What I find super interesting is always the narrative. Is it really purpose-driven, or is it something that's only due to regulation? And I think what we're experiencing at the moment it's regulatory-driven. It's not really purpose-driven. And the question is, how authentic can you be if it's only regulation you're trying to fulfill?
May I bounce that back to you? Because that would be my assumption. That I think I read some numbers that you have around 13% of companies that really have a transformative approach to sustainability. Usually the C-level already realized what you just said. It really needs to become part of our DNA. You have around about 30% who are very eager to do great stuff beyond compliance. And then you probably have around about 60% who are very hesitant, who look at it as tedious homework, or who actually really do not care and don't want to be bothered. But let's look at the top 40% maybe. So is it enough for you to, if there's sort of like, okay, we need to cover compliance, but we also want to go a little bit beyond that, is that already enough for you guys to move in and work with companies? Can you like nudge them then just by working with you guys, they maybe also go take an extra step?
I guess it helps. However, obviously, we want to help companies to use our tool in a good way, to actually change internally and not just use it, to attract employees and stuff. So I think there is also that aspect.
So what you want to avoid is that they'll be like, hey, come work for us. We're all looking for talents, and you get a free education in sustainability on top of that, but you might not be able to use it. That's what you want to avoid.
Yes, and also, training doesn't work if the company doesn't give time to the employees to actually do the training. If the DNA of or the narrative of the company is very sustainability negative, I don't know, I think there's just not a lot of motivation for employees to then do the training and actually see where the sustainable transformation needs to happen in their specific everyday jobs.
Now, we talked a lot, like what kind of prerequisite you need in order to really involve the staff into a transformation. Let's assume, as you said, best case practice. The C-level really says this is what we're going for. Everybody needs to come on board. Now, of course, it's usual that in the C-level, they're usually familiar with sustainability. They usually get their management training. But then as like in the levels below, what are really essential skills people need to learn if they want to be part of the sustainability transformation? What's like your core 3 topics that, for example, you really need to cover with your training?
I think I would like to go a bit back to where we started about like how the digital transformation is actually a good example for the sustainability transformation, because we need the digital transformation in every area of the company, in every area of the work field. So in this aspect, it's a very good example, because also sustainability we need in every job field, in every it needs to be part of everyday job working life for everyone. However, we should be a lot faster, of course. And so our approach also with the climate school and with our product is to have like this multi-layer approach, because it's not enough to know, okay, we have GHG emissions, we need to reduce them. It's also a lot about what can I do if I, for example, work in HR for a company? How can the sustainable transformation be included in my job role, in my everyday life? And what are the skills I need for that? The same goes for procurement, for legal, and so on.
You still didn't answer yet. So what are like some
skills?
Yes, what are like key skills?
So it depends obviously on the function, but for example, HR, which plays a crucial role in the whole culture transition and the whole culture change. So HR has several challenges. One challenge is obviously recruiting. we know a lot about how we have like a lack of workforce in companies, and we also know that especially people from the younger generation that are coming onto the job market now, they want jobs that align with their values. So people in HR need to be super aware of the sustainability strategy of the company. They need to be super aware what they're actually telling to also avoid greenwashing, and also be able to be challenged then by the future employees, because they will have demands, they will negotiate things such as sustainability.
We were just talking about that before the panel, that, that's really, I think talent is quite smart, and they can really tell when companies come with some sustainability bingo.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for the main skills, from my point of view, it's not so much about skills, but not getting frustrated. So I think really to understand the terminology, to have a setting and a frame, just to understand the basics. What is ESG? And ESG is not like whole sustainability. There's a triple bottom line. Just have like the vocabulary down, I think, and then help put it into perspective. And then don't get frustrated. Keep going. Because I think it's tough if you try to drive sustainability. So for me, it's a lot about endurance, actually. So it's more like not a skill, but like a personality trademark, maybe.
But also, I think regarding the frustration, I think, it's a huge issue and a huge problem, but I think it's also because the whole narrative around sustainability is always so negative. And if we could change that and have this narrative a lot more positive, how actually this change can help us in the transformation to a better world, we would not need all those discussions we are having like every single day.
You're referring more to discussions in the media about that we all have to verzichten and that we lose our freedom and
I guess because also the public discourse is then what people also carry with them into the company and what they believe in and what their values are.
Well, referring back to your experience at Commerzbank, large organization, you've been there for 20 years. So what have you experienced as specifically helpful measures or steps that you took in that company or that you experienced? And after you answered that, what might have not worked so well?
Okay. Well, like in any company, there were the people who started like out 20, 30 years ago, but more on a corporate responsibility topic. They evolved and they started to find, we always called them green ninjas. So with the green ninjas, we would start like a grassroots and we would educate, not of course with the tools you guys are providing now, but just to find people who, on addition to the job, that's the second thing, right? Nobody gets the freedom really to indulge into sustainability, and maybe yes, now you get to learn, but like 5 years ago, there was no real freedom to use the tools that might have been there. So really, we got people involved. We started talking about it. We started building the bridge towards what's the purpose for yourself. A lot of people are sustainable at home, but they kind of have the problem to transfer it into the workplace. So we tried to help build the bridges. You were just talking about HR. That's something we did as well, and made small examples. And what I really loved was we try to get rid of the myths. So one myth in finance is ESG portfolios don't perform. That's something just everybody out there believes or used to believe. So we would really, put the point on where people, don't understand or have a wrong perception.
That resonates a bit with what Valerie said, is that you really have to change the negative notion of sustainability. So you acted sort of as mythbusters of narratives that are out there. What are your top 3 myths that you need to bust? You already mentioned around ESG portfolios that don't perform, a topic specifically that I guess made sense at Commerzbank, but what are they?
Well, if you're in the banking industry, people who are indulging into sustainability, they're still like the green people wearing Birkenstocks with self-made socks. And so there's a wrong perception of the people who are really driving sustainability. I think that's the second thing that needed to change. And also, of course, if you're working in a bank, at the beginning, people don't understand why you're maybe still on the good side, even though you're presumed on the wrong side. So it was really about understanding how the way banks make decisions can drive sustainability, how funds are provided, what kind of advice is given to our customers. So this was like the biggest part, because it was like, what does this have to do with me and my job?
Yep. I would maybe add a fourth one, which is also that there's always this perception that people, they don't want to learn. Like also within companies, if you talk to people that are maybe like in charge of learning and stuff like that, they always say, yeah, but our people, they don't care about sustainability. No, like this, if we buy training, nobody will do it. It's always a narrative. And I think it's always so easy like to critique and condescend people without actually speaking to them. Because if you would start speaking with them and actually encourage them to learn and make that shift, you will see that there's a lot of potential in everyone to actually live and work in fields that are life affirming.
Now, you said certain myths need to be busted, but let's be honest, I think it's a really challenging topic to actually upskill people in, because sustainability is so complex. There's so many you need to understand about, just basic, the whole idea around the CO2 footprint. But then if you go into biodiversity, it becomes super complex. You have the whole social sustainability aspect to it. It sounds like a full-time training. How do you do that aside on the job?
Yeah, so what I also said earlier, I think people that really have sustainability in their DNA and really want the transformation, they know that you need to put time aside to do that. So I think, first of all, there's that. And then second of all, not everyone in the company needs to know everything about the biodiversity strategy. If you work in procurement, for example, you should know a lot about human rights. You should know about Scope 3. If you work in HR, you should mainly know about how to attract talent. Also, how can you decarbonize your own department and things like that. Yeah.
Well, if I may add, I think it has to be a bit fun, because we are all used to doing these compliance kind of, Geldwäsche, money laundry trainings every year. They're just not fun. And so I think you'd really need to have it bit-sized, so you can just do it in between. I think that's what you guys are doing as well. And of course, there has to be just the way of learning has to be light and fun. And I think it's a great topic to do that.
So I think what became clear is that in order to really launch the transformation, people need to really be upskilled wherever they are in the company. It's probably one of the biggest challenges. I think René Schmidt-Peter, who was like one of the professors who really pioneered also the notion of CSR and taking it from CSR a step further in the German-speaking region, he says it's probably the bottleneck on the sustainability roadmap is education. If we're going to fail, we're going to fail because we did not upskill enough middle management in the next 5 years. I think he put the number out there, like we need to upskill around 2 million middle managers to really be able to deliver on the sustainability transformation. Seems probably like an overlooked challenge, because most of the companies, let's be frank, look at ESG software right now, no?
Yeah, it's true. And honestly, I think people are they don't want to talk about sustainability at the moment. They're just kind of fed up with seeing it everywhere, seeing it on every product, seeing it on every advertisement. Everybody's doing everything green, green, green. So a lot of people are now, not again. So I think you have to overcome this and then, of course, educate. The question is, how deep does it have to go? I mean, and then I'm with you. Make it certain, if you're in lending, you have to have different topics than if you're in HR, if you're more on the social side, and really make it fit to the point. But the basis has to be there. And that's not there yet. And I think that's not only actually an educational problem of the companies. I think it has to be integrated in schools. I think it has to, there has to be some additional drive as well.
Now, we said it has to be fun. I think specifically medium-sized companies, they do not look at it as fun. They look at it as CSRD, and they're like, damn, that's another thing we have to cope with. Maybe if I may take the example of VM Daten, because they took you in as somebody specifically in charge of sustainability, but I think they did actually not know what they subscribed on. Maybe you can tell us that story.
Well, yeah. So actually, there were two topics. Of course, there was the sales part and setting up sales and sales management. But in addition, I told them I'm only coming if I can do my heart topic, which is ESG or sustainability. And yeah, it's been like 10 months and we've really done all our homework. So we're starting. And of course, there had to be funds that had to get approved. We're hiring 2 people who are now in charge, helping to gather all the information we need to do the non-financial reporting.
But I think it's okay to mention this, but you also had to do lobby for your own job. Because I think you have 3 general managers, and they were not equally on board of really giving you the green light.
That's true. Yeah. It was, but
how did you do that? Maybe that's interesting for people also, like how can you actually, if you're a head of sustainability, what kind of moves can you leverage to get more of a mandate for your actual job?
Well, I think with the management, to be honest, you do have to use the regulatory part as well.
So you just made them really scared.
Well, no, maybe not. I'm not that scary a person, I think. But of course, that was one point that really they understood. And you can put a business case on it as well. So it was like both. It was changing the swing vote, if you want to say so.
So you had 3 general managers, and it could have gone one or the other way.
Yeah.
How did you? Or what were sort of the concerns of the ones that were not immediately on board?
Too much work already. We're busy. We don't have the funds. It's not important enough. We're under 450 people, so we're not directly affected at the moment. Of course, in 2025, we'll be reporting as well. So we're trying to make them understand, hey, we have to get ready today to really be able to report in the future. And that worked well. So we really drew up It was a straightforward plan of what we need to do. And we told them, okay, we're doing baby steps and it's a progress. It won't be there from today to tomorrow.
However, you did do a good job because you got the green light to go ahead with much more than they bargained for. Now you already are a digital company. To what extent are you now combining your sustainability efforts with probably a still ongoing?
Well, that's the fun part. We already, even though we don't have a statement as a company ourselves, we don't have a CO2 footprint at the moment. We already, we provide ESG data to our customers. So we've got the product, but we don't have ourselves yet. So it is in some parts already integrated. But if you look at, for example, EET, we will integrate it and we'll try to gather additional data to provide. But that's more for the customer side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about, of course, top down, there has to be a green light for sustainability really being taken serious. We talked a lot about how important it is to upskill middle managers, to upskill really in all areas, may it be finance, may it be HR, may it be procurement, production. I think it was just 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm not sure if it was Handelsblatt, German newspaper, that wrote that I think of all the DAX companies here, only 10 have sufficient knowledge about sustainability in their board. How critical is it actually to upskill the board of large companies? Because it seems there's a really big lack in top management and steering.
I guess the article says it's very necessary. And we work a lot internationally with the AXA Climate School. And we have to say that, unfortunately, in Germany, we're lacking a bit behind other countries that are a lot more progressive. So I think we should avoid being as slow as we were with this digital transformation and really accelerate in the sustainability one. And I guess in Germany, what you also just said in your example at your company, we always have also this narrative about, yeah, but we're not ready yet. We have different priorities and so on. And sometimes maybe this whole we're not ready yet, there needs to be like a good point when we can start. Maybe it's, I don't know, but maybe it's something a bit German, always like balancing out everything, the good, the bad. However, there is no such thing as being ready. You either decide you're in or you're out, but then the journey never ends. And this is how we should approach this.
Now, quick questions before we involve the audience. I think beforehand you also said that there's the risk of actually being used as greenwashing, not on the outside as in marketing, but internally. So how did you come across that? Or
Well, I think outside, I think is clear. Yeah. So inside, I think you have to really prove that you mean it, and that you can only do with the management on board. So there needs to be a statement from the management that this is not just a one-person thing with a couple of crazy people who are helping, but it's really we mean it. And then there has to be proof after proof after proof. And it can be small things, it can be small changes, but they have to be visible.
Because if you start not being credible about these efforts, you can lead to something, a word I think I learned from you a couple of weeks ago, conscious quitting. So that there's those people who really are proactively looking for a job in another company because they want to work for a more sustainable competitor. And I think there's quite a big, significant number of people already doing that.
Yeah, so so it's a study from the UK done by KPMG in January, and it says that 1 in 5 millennials, they quit their job because the company they're working at does not align with their values, and in Gen Z it's already 1 in 3. So, and I guess in Germany as well, with the lack of workforce, this is really something we need to address.
Something to add to your scary toolbox in order to convince future general managers. So conscious quitting, that is something you can add to CSRD.
But you can also use it. So if you have them on board, help them transform.
All right. If I just need to check time. Perfect. It's past. Oh yeah, we can open the fishbowl. So who wants to join us on stage, talk about your experience or have questions? Please come up. What's your name? And grab a microphone.
Hi, thank you. My name is Julian. Thank you for your inspiring words. And so the title is Opportunities and Challenges. I think we talked a lot about the opportunities, but a huge challenge you guys just described, and I also see is, so there was a big survey from the DIHK in Germany asking 4,000 companies about their maturity. It was kind of self-assessment in digital transformation. And they should give themselves a grade, a German school grade for the maturity in digital transformation. It was 2.9, so quite bad. And this is for digital transformation. Now we are talking about twin transformation. I'm really afraid about this school grade here. So my question is, I think if we really want to change, we have convinced the C-level. So which ways do you guys know to convince C-level that the twin transformation, the sustainable transformation is very important?
No, it's not.
I'll also clear my chair if somebody has an answer to that question. Please come to stage. Anybody wants to join the discussion? But please answer already.
Should I give it a try anyhow? Okay. So we were talking about the boards. Don't wait on them, I think. And yes, you're right for the C-level. But if you look at the changes in the C-level at the moment, and you look at the age that's kind of changing as well, I think there's plenty of us who are ready just to drive the topic. And even looking out here, there are ex-colleagues of mine here as well who are driving the topics. I think everybody's looking for purpose, especially after Corona. I think it changed a lot, and everybody trying to understood what we're facing. And I think that's the easiest way. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your perspectives. I think in a similar way. And I think it's about intrinsic motivation. So the management level have to look about how is my food, how are my shoes, how are my clothes, how sustainable is my lifestyle. And I think this is a big transformation. So there's a lot of knowledge outside who's presented on Instagram, on all the social media. So everybody knows what's to do. And for me, very important is the vegan lifestyle, because this is a big transformation which can really have big potentials for the future.
Absolutely. I think the lifestyle is one part. The question is, how do you transfer it into your job? And if you're maybe even in a job where it's not that transparent, that's the harder part. Because of course you can be like totally lifestyle-y and then sustainable and look at what you eat and how you dress. But to get it into your job, if you're already in a job and you don't want to go ahead and quit like directly.
But I think is that something a top management is scared of? Because I know at VW, only at one of 30 canteens, they changed their Currywurst, the Kraftriegel, from Fleisch to vegan, and they rolled it back 2 months ago. So now it's a meat Currywurst again. So is top management maybe also scared to expose themselves as being vegan or as really not having the big electric BMW?
But that's what I meant with endurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you do it, you have to keep it up. Don't drop it again. Yeah. That's kind of sad.
And just introduce yourself also, because we've got to ask your name.
My name is David, and I have an online business, and it's very sustainable, vegan products and superfoods and things like this. And so, me as the owner, I'm looking that that the people can have an orientation, that they can see how is my boss. What clothes is he wearing? What is he eating? What is he doing when he has time for his friends or yes. So I think it's important that the people on the top of the companies, they have the consciousness and the awareness. And if not, they have to make a conscious quit. And I think that's a good idea too, because then the people who are going out of the companies, they will demonstrate that this is a new lifestyle. There will have to be new companies to get all these people.
May I have one point?
Yes, please.
I think it's really important, and that's also something I learned from someone sitting here in the audience. You don't have to be perfect, but it has to be real. And so, of course, you can try to like be picture perfect, but that also scares people a lot. So, from my point of view, better be like 80% and get people inspired than make them scared of your lifestyle, honestly.
If I look in the audience, I see questions. Perfect, come up. You're in the last row, that's too far away. Yes, we clear the chairs again. If that was your thought, perfect. We have a free seat for the next person. I know your name is Dilara, you're of Bosch Climate Solutions, so welcome on stage.
Hi everyone. Just wanted to answer to you actually about the management level. I don't know your name anymore because he's talking right now. But
I think his name was Ben, or was Julian, almost close.
Because I wanted to answer to your question, what you need to do. I think you have to convince your business, like you have to convince your management that it is actually an advantage, a competitive advantage, that there is a business case behind this. If we don't invest now, it will be more expensive later. And right now it's about money, money, money. So I think there is a business case, and that's, I think, what you have to
That's also the idea behind Enkelfähig versus sustainability driven, is that they really try to push that phrase because it's much more connected to the business case behind it. Yeah.
And it's actually cheaper than some people think. Like there is definitely.
How do you do that?
Case.
Because just to complete the picture, you guys consult medium-sized companies and large companies. So how specifically do you draw up that business case?
So basically, we as Bosch Climate Solutions, we support industrial companies on their way to CO2 neutrality. And like, for example, if you buy green electricity, you would think, oh, it's so much more expensive. But in the long run, it's actually cheaper than if you go for gray electricity. Like there are different levers that you can do, but you really have to bring it down to the numbers because that's what managements are listening to. And I think it's definitely important that the management is portraying that to the company because it has to be lived from top level.
Do you have another example? Because obviously that's like photovoltaic on the roof is really something that's happening already. Do you have like maybe an unusual example of a good business case?
No, you caught me off guard.
Okay, we'll pass on the question. Yes, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Denise. I'm working at Glacier, a climate education startup where we actually have the vision to bring climate action into the DNA of the companies. And what you said, we also live the statement, maybe you know it, it's actually on zero waste, but we say that we don't need a handful of people doing climate action perfectly. We need millions doing it imperfectly. I don't have an answer to the question what companies are doing, but I definitely agree that we need the CSR team, the top management on board to bring climate action into the companies. But what we're also seeing is that considering they are on board, how can we or do you help employees to actually engage in climate action? Because we often hear that it's on top of their work, they have other priorities, other to-dos. So if they have the educational formats, the activational formats to actually do it, or the time and resources, but still are not convinced, how can you really engage your employees in that topic? And maybe I answer that, or okay. So something that we see with our clients, which usually works very well, and I think you also mentioned that at Commerzbank, you had like the ninjas, the green ninjas, and this is something that works incredibly well if in a company you have change makers or change leaders, that they are like the disseminators to actually spread the ideas, spread the change. And the importance in their role is that they meet the people with trust, that they build bridges, that they meet them with empathy, and especially that they meet them where they are at, because this is really what will engage people. And stop the whole blaming thing. It will never work.
Yeah, and maybe one thing to add, actually, once people get kind of connected, they start putting in the extra work and extra time. So I think it's more like a positive cultural change as well. So I think it's not only about the transformation, digital and green, but it's also about cultural change. And I think what will happen at the end, actually, many companies will overthink their values, their company values as well. Because usually there's a disconnect if you're just starting out.
We're almost closing the finish line. Any more questions, remarks, criticism? Please come on stage quickly. And one more. Perfect. Can you already clear the chair? And thanks a lot for joining me. Come up. So 2 questions quickly.
Yeah, I have a quick question. I'm Philip Mostudia, and I have a question about the execution, because I know we all agree that education is really key part of making a change, but how do you support organization while they want to execute the strategy?
So in our company,
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Next time we'll make it a plastic setup. Nature is too dangerous. All right. I think everybody's fine. They're still laughing. Okay, so let's continue with the answer.
So as specifically, we provide e-learning content for companies to engage all the employees. We are not a change maker company. For that, you would need a lot more, like consultants who help you. What we try to do with our product is just, offer the best high quality tools to fill this huge education gap.
Mm-hmm. With regards to time, quick answer. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, what we see is you do need help from usually externally. I think
you need help externally, right?
You can't do it internally the whole way. I think, like you always say, people outside the company, they tell the real truth, and that's more heard. So I think to find a good partner to guide you on the way at the beginning is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Stefan. Actually, I don't have a question, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And one more thing, I think also that when you're talking about what's attractive, being perfect is not attractive. So it's not sexy at all, being perfect, like between private persons and also being a company saying, I'm sustainable, I'm whatever, I'm done. So authentic communication is key in sustainability. And the other thing I think for CSO is very important. We talked about benefits. Why should we do it? We must come from we have to we want to, concerning purpose, education, staff. But furthermore, as well, drop the benefits down to the departments. Like talk to the finance department. What are you guys' benefits? Because they're thinking their silo. Talk to the HR head of. Talk to the marketing. Talk to the CSO, CEOs, etc. I think that's also more important. And also, when you start with a coffee and don't make it too big. Just keep on talking about the positive communication and sustainability.